Hey, hey, Blue Table fans! Wah! Has the enthusiasm gone down over the years? Somebody should make a montage, go back on every video. I do believe there's over 4,000. Like some of my numbers, they're just like blah up there, and I don't really know what it actually is. I've gone back and I'm like, where's all my? Like some of them seem to be missing. I don't know what's going on with that. So anyway. Yeah, make like a montage of all the Hey Hey Blue Table fans. Hey Hey Blue Table fans! Alright, let's do this. Numenera. Numenera is a role-playing game by Monty Cook. Monty Cook is sort of a famous name in the role-playing world. He had a lot to do with Dungeons and Dragons, I do believe as far back as the 80s. And that's really all I know about him. I've seen some video interviews with him. He seems like a stand-up guy, and I wish the best for him. And as far as I can tell, nobody says this outright, but it seems like he kept writing stuff for other people, and finally he was like, maybe I should make some of my own intellectual property. And good for you, Monty. I plan on doing the same thing too. All right, so Numenera. Let's get this done. This is the core book, so this is where you're going to want to start. They just did a Kickstarter where I think they did like a second edition and it's split, but I didn't want to wait for June 2018. And for me, that's kind of the thing with Kickstarter. It's like, I don't want to wait that long. I'll just buy it on eBay when it comes out. It's not terrible. But anyway, so this core book currently retails for $60, but you get a lot with this book. I'd put it up against the core book of any other game. It's pretty dense, 407 page, let's say 400 pages. If you take out all the credits for Kickstarter backers, there's quite a section on that. And I've now played 2 sessions of Numenera. In my last video, I talked a little bit about my Pathfinder game. So my 2 sons are in my Pathfinder game, age 12 and 16. Now 12 is pretty young to be in a game with, older people. But he's doing really good. And one time he was playing 3 characters and he kind of broke down. But I'm like, this is impressive. I mean, here's a kid and he's keeping up on all the math in his head, too, to run 3 like 12th level characters in a full-on combat with maybe 20 actors in it. So, awesome. So we played that, Pathfinder, which is a very numbers-oriented tactical game, more like a war game. And in fact, it really sort of, like if I had gone from role-playing directly, all my role-playing experience, and then gone into Pathfinder, I probably wouldn't have liked it. But with going from all my role-playing stuff to wargaming a lot, and then going into Pathfinder, it really made sense. But coming back to Numenera, this is really a very strong storytelling game. And so my 2 sons had different reactions to it, where, like, because when you're doing a real sort of theater of the mind thing, you have to, you have to kind of figure things out. You have to, find a story. You just have to contribute to the story, and that's how you sort of resolve things. It's not just, oh, here's my number of attacks. I did 90 points of damage. Now that guy's dead. Next. So anyway, and yes, I'm tying this all into this. So Numenera is just, it's lavish. There's a lot of great art. It's set on Earth 1 billion years in the future, and there have been 8 civilizations, and now it's the 9th civilization. So it kind of has a Gamma World vibe to it, where there's just like a lot of strange stuff, anything goes. But if you look at like a fantasy game where you make magic items and there's spells and stuff, it's kind of the same vibe. This just sort of gives it a different veneer that really changes the whole experience. So, just really, really, really cool stuff. Look at that guy. He's having a rough time. And So it's very imaginative. I mean, I've been quite smitten by this, by not only the game background, but now the rules. So I'm going to tell you what books to get. Just going to kind of flip through them. Too long of an introduction. So if you're going to get into Numenera, get the basic book. And let's see. Let me just grab my other stuff here. Then the next thing you're going to want to get. Oh, I could have prepared for this just a little bit better, I think. Come on, Sean. What are you doing? Nope. I don't have it. My kids have it. All right. So it's a basic book. There are 3 types, what you'd think of as classes in it, and which is Nano, Jack, and Glaive. And they sort of correspond to the traditional fantasy classes of wizard, fighter, thief. Let's say that, or rogue. So anyway, so get advanced player options 1 and 2. That would be your next purchases, even if you're the GM or you're running a group. So that's what you would want to buy. What I noticed, because I was with my sons, we were just kind of hanging out doing our Numenera characters, and they wanted to look at the other books, and I realized all the other books are for the GM, because the game is about discovery, about being in this strange world and running across these things. So it's not like in my Pathfinder or D&D game, I let my sons read the bestiaries or like the monster manual, I guess. And it's all right. It's not that big a deal. I change how things look. But in this game, no, it's all a surprise. So let me show you some of the other books. Blah, blah, blah. I just talked too much. Ninth World Guide book. This would actually also be good for players. It talks more about the different kingdoms, monsters. There's really not more rules in it. It just talks about, organizations. So this is really just a source book and more for GMs than players. So if you are a player of Numenera, I wouldn't get the Ninth World Guidebook. I'd let your GM buy it and then just, have fun with it indirectly. A must for a GM, this for me, if you were running the game, this would be the first purchase. And that would be Weird Discoveries. This is a book full of mini adventures. It retails for $24.99. And what's really cool is it doesn't have a typical keyed map. It's run where, and this is something I always did, but it's nice to see it codified, where there can be different critical elements called keys. Like, let's say the party has to find someone to get some key information, or they have to find an item to fix something back in town. That key can be found in lots of different locations, and that's what this little code is it tells you the location. Like the yellow circle, that's one key, and then the yellow circle appears in different places where you might be able to find that thing in the story. So it's very much a storytelling game. I gotta tell you, I love it. I'm gonna keep playing this game. It's really, really, really neat. And because of the system. So I'll tell you, we'll get back to the books. Let me tell you a little bit about the system. So how it runs is that the GM doesn't have any dice. The GM, only the players have dice. Oh yeah, it's really neat. So if a player attacks a monster, they do a test to hit the monster. If a monster attacks a player, the player makes a test to avoid the attack. See how that works? That's how the whole thing basically works. The players all do, the GM only sets the targets for it. But even then, there's, I can't remember what it's called. We'll just say it's a target. It goes 1 through 10. So let's say I set a target of 5, which is pretty hard. Like 10 is like epic impossibility. So a 5, which is pretty hard. Now the players have a chance to tell you to bring up things that will make that number go down. Now, if you, as a GM, you think the number should be higher, well, you just do that up front. You just make it higher. So there's no back and forth. The players only try and chop it down. And once you do that, you multiply it by 3 and you roll your d20. So if your target is 5, you need a 15 or higher. If your target, and if the player chops that down to 3, then they only need a 9 or higher on a d20. And it gets even better. If the player rolls a 1, they get a GM intrusion where something goes wrong, sort of like the classic fumble, where you can, you know, say your weapon breaks or another bad guy shows up, or you can change the story adversely. But on a 17, 18, 19, 20, there's bonuses that happen in combat, and on a 19 or 20, you get like extra effects that happen, and the GM decides those as well. Player rolls a 20, then something really good is supposed to happen. It's a great system. It's simple. It lends itself to storytelling. It's a very cooperative game. Like the way that it's set up lends itself to teamwork rather than, you know, hobo murdering and backstabbing. All right. So, Devil's Spine. This is hard to find. This is just an adventure. A big ol' adventure. What else? Spire of the Hunting Sound. That's an adventure. Highly recommend that. This might be a good place to start. Oh, look at this. This is a hardbound campaign book called Jade Colossus. And the game really is about exploring, not necessarily just killing things, but making discoveries. And then you try and make human life better somehow. So the typical plot line is that the players are from some sort of settlement, and they are sort of the defenders of the settlement, or they're working somehow to make the settlement better. So there's that. Then there are 2 bestiaries, and these are for the GM. So I would get, if I were a GM, I would get Weird Discoveries first, and then I would get the Ninth World Bestiary. That would be my third purchase, other than the 2 player option books, which I don't have them with me. My sons are using them, but I have bought extras. So anyway, and then Bestiary 2, and the creatures in this world, guys, they are bizarro. I would actually buy this game. I would buy these for any game setting and include these creatures in them. Here, let me just give you one more. There's 1 creature per page. They're all fully illustrated. These would be great creatures for a great supplement for a science fiction game as well. There you go. Oh, I'm having a hard time showing you. So it's really, really cool stuff. The last book, and this is almost everything that's published physically for this game. There's a lot of PDFs, by the way, that are really inexpensive. They're like $4. Is the Technology Compendium. And this would be great just for a science fiction game. Like if you were playing Starfinder, this would be great for that. And the descriptions are very simple, and the game system is very simple as well. So my favorite item is it's a metal collar, and when you put it on and activate it, it removes the head of the person, but it preserves it. Like they can still talk, and and I'm pretty sure it preserves the body as well. Like it puts like a casing on it. But you can, if you take it to another headless body, you can put the head onto that body. It like fuses it. What a great magic item too. So if you had 2 of them, you could just be switching heads between things. It really is one of my favorite ones. I'm trying to find one. So here's these guys, and it can look like they don't tell you what it looks like. They just tell you what the artifact does. One of my favorite ones is, I don't remember what it's called, but it's I put it in my first adventure I ran with my sons. By the way, my D&D group normally has those two plus 2 or 3 other people. But over Christmas break, I'm just running it with my 2 sons, and we're running Numenera. So anyway, it's a black disc, and if you put it on something and you activate it, it increases the weight by 10 times. So typically, almost any creature now cannot move. It's like flattened against the ground. And if you put it on an object, you can't move that object, and it might actually be crushed under its own weight. So they've been very inventive with these items. So Numenera, I cannot say enough good things about this game. But be warned, it really is a storytelling game. But it's so imaginative. It's so fun. I gotta tell you, I'm loving it and having a really good time. And it'd be really well suited to playing it online strictly as a storytelling game. So guys, that's all I got to say about Numenera and what to buy for Numenera.